For some reason, I did not write down where that comes from, so I have to look that back up later. But meanwhile, you got Doc Ock here in the studio, Black Fact Studio at the headquarters in Kent, Ohio, coming to you live and direct with Doc Ock at noon and 9. The poem for today is, excuse me, our poem for today is called Woodshed Walk. Let's see what we got on the Woodshed Walk. Hopefully these lights around here are bright enough for me to read it easily. Though I wander through the woods on a lonesome trail, do you think I can't begin to think or even see the reality? You're out of your mind. I went strolling down the woods the other day, trying hard to find out what it was I really wanted to play. The people thought that I would never play again. You see, they really felt that I had peaked and was on my way to a steady downward trend. But I went right back into the woodshed where I could try to free the self in me, and got deeper inside my head. My head was talking while I went walking down the trail. I came upon the shed sitting way out there in the clearing, beckoning to my soul to play the things that I kept on hearing. It seemed to say, come and play here in me. And I will really do my darndest to try and help you to be free. If free is really what you want to be now, then step inside of me. I stepped into the darkness, and what do you think I found? Into the pitch black darkness of lightly taking my axe right out of my case, while ordering my foot to keep a steady, even pace. Then I began to blow. Now de dum tum 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 diddly open, ooh wee. You and me, we're castaways on a sea. You and me, we're living our destiny. We're riding the crest of the waves, up underneath the stars. Do you think that this state will continue to exist? Well, you're wrong. It won't be long before it's just too late. You're out of your mind. Now think about that one. That's got a proverb. That's like a proverb wrapped within an enigma, wrapped within an eggshell. All you got to do is just crack it open, and you'll be able to avoid going to that place that rhymes with H-E double. You know what I mean. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, let's finish off this little dance and get on with our story of the day and what made it be today. The story today is Ark of Bones. Let's go ahead and finish it off. This is the last part. So the young men were out there and they saw the ship, the Ark, coming up the way, and they got on the Ark. And here's what they found. Let me see. I'm just trying to find right where I left off. Yeah. I let it ride. When you hook a fish, the best thing to do is just let him get a good hold. Let him swallow it, especially a catfish. You don't go jerking him up as soon as you get a nibble. With the catfish, you let him go. I figured I'd better let things go. Pretty soon, I figured I'd catch up with something, and I did. Well, me and Head Eye were kind of arguing, not loud since you had to keep your voice down on a place like that Ark out of respect. It was like that. Head-Eye, he tells me that when the cabin doors opened, we were supposed to go down the stairs. He said anybody on this boat could consider himself called. Called to do what? I asked him. I had to ask him because the only kind of calling I knew about was when somebody hollered at you when the Lord called somebody to preach. I figured it out. Maybe the Lord had called him, but I knew doggone well he wasn't calling me. I hardly ever went to church, and when I did, it was only to play with the gals. I knowed I wasn't fit to whip up no flock of people with holiness, so when I asked him, called for what? I ain't have in my mind nothing I could be called for, unless it be dinner. You'll see, he said, and the next thing I know, we was going down steps into the belly of that ark. The moaning jumped up into my ears loud, and I could smell something funny, like the burning of sweet wood, the churning of a paddle wheel filled up my ears, and when Head-Eye stopped at the foot of the steps, I stopped too. What I saw I'll never forget long as I live. Bones. I saw bones. They were all stacked. They were stacked all the way to the top of the ship. I looked around. The underside of the whole ark was nothing but a great bone house. I looked and saw crews of black men handling in them bones. There was a crew of 2 or 3 under every cabin around that ark. Why, there must have been 1,000,000 cabins. They were doing it very carefully, like they were holding on to babies or something precious, standing like a captain was. The old man we'd seen top deck. He was holding a long piece of leather up to a fire that was burning near the edge of an opening which showed outward to the water. He was reading that piece of leather. On the other side of the fire, just at the edge of the ark, a crew of men was winding up a rope. They were chanting every time they pulled. I couldn't understand what they were saying. It was a foreign talk, and I never learned any kind of foreign talk. In front of us was a fence, so as to keep anybody coming down the steps from barging right in. We just stood there. The old man knew we was there, but he was busy reading. Then he rolls up this long scroll and starts to walk in a crooked path through the bones laid out on the floor. It was like he was walking frontwards, backwards, sideways, and every which way, all at the same time, being careful not to step on them bones. Head-Eye, he looked like he knew what was going on. But when I saw all this, I just about popped my eyes out. Yes, I did. Just about the time I figure I done put things together, something happens. I about come to figure them bones were the bones of dead animals and all the men wearing skin clothes. Well, they was the skins of them animals. But just about time I think I got it figured out, one of the men hauling that rope from the water starts to holler. They all stop and let him moan on and on. I could make out a bit of what he was saying, but like I said, I never was foreign talk. Abba Abba Alham Dilaba. Abba Abba to brother. Abba Abba Alham Dilaba. Abba Abba brother. Abba Abba Juka brother. Abba Abba Alham Dilaba. Then he stopped. The others began to chant in the back of him, real low. And the old man, he stopped where he was, unrolled that scroll and read it, and then he holler out, 1923. Then he closed up the scroll and continued his coming towards me and Head-Eye. On his way, he had to stop and do the same thing about 4 times, all along the side of the ark. Them great black men were hauling up bones from that river. It was the craziest thing I ever seen. I knowed when it wasn't no animal bones. I took a look at them, and they was all laid out in different ways, all making some kind of body. And there was big bones and little bones and parts of bones and chips, tidbits, skulls, fingers, and everything. I thought I shut my mouth then. I knowed I was on to something. I had fished out something. I think about a sermon I heard about Ezekiel. I comes to think about a sermon I heard about Ezekiel in the valley of dry bones. The old man was looking at me now. He was sizing me up. Then he reached out and opened the fence. Head eye, he walks through and the old man closes it. It keeps still. You best to let things run their course in a situation like this. Son, you are in the house of generations. Every African who lives in America is a part of this soul in this ark. God has called you and I shall anoint you. He raised the scroll over Head Eye's head and began to squeeze like he was trying to draw the wetness out. He closed his eyes and talked very low. Do you have your shield? Head Eye, he then brings out this funny cloth I see him with and puts it over his head and flops it all the way over his shoulder like a hood. Repeat after me, he said. I figured that old man must be some kind of minister because he was ordaining Head Eye right there before my eyes. Everything he say, Head Eye, he's saying behind him. Abba, I consecrate my bones, take my soul up and plant it again. Your will shall be my hand. When I strike, you strike. My eyes shall see only thee. I shall set my brother free. Abba, this bone is thy seal. I'm steady watching. The priest is holding a scroll over his head, and I see oil falling from it. It's black oil, and it soaks into Head Eye's shield, and the shield turns dark green. Head Eye ain't moving. Then the priest pulls it off. Do you have your witness? Head Eye, he is trembling. Yes, my brother. Fish hound. The priest points at me, then like he did before. With the eyes of your brother Fish hound, so be it. He was asking me. I nodded my head. Then he turns and walks away just like he come. Head Eye, he goes over to one of the fires, walking through the bones like he been doing it all his life. And he holds the shield in till it catch fire. It don't burn with a flame, but with a smoke. He puts it down on a place, which looks like an altar or something. And he sits in front of the smoke, cross-legged. And I can hear him moaning. When the shield, it all burn up, Head Eye takes out that little piece of mojo bone and rakes the ashes inside. Then he walks over to me, opens up that fence and goes up the steps. I have to follow, and he ain't say nothing to me. He ain't have to then. It was several days later that I see him again. We got back that night late, and everybody wanted to know where we was. People from town said the white folks had lynched a nigger and threw him in the river. I wasn't doing no talking till I see Head Eye. That's why he picked me for his witness. I keep my word. Then that evening, whilst I'm in the house with my ragged sisters and brothers and my old papa, here come Head Eye. He had a funny look in his eye. I knowed some notion was whipping his head. He must have been running. He was out of breath. Fish hound, bro. You know what? Yeah, I said. Head Eye, he know he could count on me to do my part. So I ain't mind showing him that I like to keep my feet on the ground. You can't never tell what you get yourself into by messing with them mojo bones. I'm leaving. Head Eye, he come up and stand on the porch. We got a no-count rabbit dog named Hey Boy. And when Head Eye come up on the porch, Hey Boy, he jump up and come sniffing at him. Get, I say to Hey Boy. And he jump up like somebody kick him. We hadn't seen that dog in about a week. No telling what kind of devilment he been into. Head Eye, he ain't say nothing. The dog, he stand up on the edge of the porch with his two front feet looking at Head Eye like he was going to get piece bread chunked out at him. I watch all this and I see who been taking care of that no account dog. A dog ain't worth a mouth of bad wine if he can't hunt, I tell Head Eye, but he is stepping off the porch. Bro, I come to tell you, I'm leaving. We all be leaving if the sippy keep rising, I say. Nah, he say. Then he walk off. I come down off that porch. Man, you need another witness? I had to say something. Head Eye, he drooped when he walked. He turned around, but he ain't drooping. I'm going back. But someday I'll be back. You is my witness. We shook hands, and Head Eye, he was gone. Moving fast with that no-count dog running alongside him. He stopped once and waved. I got a notion when he did that, but I've been keeping it to myself. People been asking me, where'd he go? But I only tell them a little something I learned in church. And I tell them about Ezekiel in the valley of dry bones. Sometimes they say, boy, you gone crazy. And then sometimes they'd say, boy, you gonna be a preacher yet. Or then they look at me and nod their heads as if they knew what I was talking about. I never told them about the ark and them bones. It would make no sense. They think me crazy then for sure. Probably say I was getting to be as crazy as Head Eye. And then they turn around and ask me again, boy, where you say Head Eye went? So much for Head Eye. So much for the Ark of Bones. So much for Fishhound. So much for today. So much for Doc Ock. You know, at 12 o'clock, we always like to rock. We'll be here again tomorrow, same time, same place, with a brand new story from the Ark of Bones. Be here or be square. But remember, we're going to be right here doing it, just like we always do. Noon and 9. This is Doc Ock signing out. Peace out.